Yep, they're just phoning it in.
The large print giveth, and the small print taketh away.
You, sir, are an idiot.
Yeah, we'll see about that. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Royal Ramble. I'm your host and your champion, John Covey Cole. Got Steve New here with me, Brian Resner, Rich Quick. How we doing, guys?
I'm doing fantastic.
Doing great.
Rich?
Better than you. Oh, no, I'm doing great.
5 seconds.
I'm doing
5
pretty good.
seconds
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm doing all right. I'm
5
still champion.
seconds of Rich throwing bombs.
Derek Jones isn't here anymore. I'm doing swell. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're alluding to, Rich, but I'm doing. If you're doing better than me, you're doing daggone good. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're right.
Nice.
Brian Resner, how's Florida?
Florida is as advertised, which is paradise on earth.
And of course, if it wasn't, you wouldn't tell us it wasn't. Right, correct.
Well, honestly, it's. I could lie to you, I
days
guess.
of sunshine out a
it's
year.
fantastic down here. It's not even that hot right now because everyone's like, "Oh, it's going to be really hot in August," and it's not even that hot because it rains like every 65 minutes, and then it stops. And then, but I don't mind rain. Rain doesn't really bother me. So, if you hated rain, you'd hate Florida right now because it's always raining.
It's so nice. It's so nice you barely notice the meth heads and alligators.
Honestly, a lot of people talk about like people are crazy in Florida. I haven't met those people.
That means you are one.
Maybe I am.
Florida man must reside in northern Florida then.
Maybe I am a Florida man and I just haven't got a news story yet. But I don't think there's as many crazy people in my area of Florida as there are in other areas of Florida.
Oh, Florida man is prolific. I'm just saying.
I seen somebody the other day on the internet said that they need to make a series called
Florida man.
That'd be great.
Right.
That would be great.
Real quick, guys. Ben Cliff over across the pond wants to know how long is it till the Ramble changes to Thursdays? I think he's just trying to get Rich Quick upset again. Starting in September, we are going to be coming over to Thursdays. So, unless something changes, we're still trying to figure out if there's another way we can.
Do you know how awesome the Ramble is going to be when we can talk about AEW, SmackDown, and Raw all at this? You know what I mean? The whole spectrum.
We're going to have to.
Along with ROH, New Japan.
Well, I'm saying, though, we have
MLW.
3 shows in a row.
Like.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, boom. That's awesome.
Well, SmackDown's moving to Fridays. So
Oh,
even if
yeah,
we're
that's
on
gonna totally screw
Thursdays, it's
everything
going to
up.
be a 6-day lag on SmackDowns. We can do a SmackDown preview of what we're expected to see, but it'll be a 6-day lag from when you last saw SmackDown.
You're right. I didn't even think about that, Steve. My whole thought is completely shattered now.
Sorry.
That's what lawyers do.
That's right.
That's what lawyers do.
That's right. Shattering dreams.
Shattering dreams with the truth all day.
Big
So what's
Cliff
going on?
Says, we can't hear you as much as normal. Well, let me crank this sumbitch up a little bit. You guys hear me there now?
What's EJ commenting?
EJ, my wife's on here. She says, John Covey Cole, we can't hear you as well as everyone else.
Ah.
So you're telling me that somebody's trying to set me up over here, EJ? Is that what you're trying to say?
Is Steve loud enough?
Can you hear Steve now? Rich, Brian, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a pleasant sound, but I can hear it just fine.
I just realized what happened. My dumb ass had my microphone muted.
So when Rich opened the show by saying that he's doing better than you,
he was
in fact 5 seconds into the show doing better than you, John Covey Cole.
This is why we can't have nice things. Well, this is why I can't have nice things.
Yeah,
we.
Anyway, this week on the show, guys, we are going to be discussing what is the worst injury to ever take place in a match. We're going to get to that later on in the show. Whenever we announced it last week, everybody said, yeah, we know what it is. We know what it is. And I'm still going to
probably picked the same one I thought about last week, but like I said, we'll discuss that later.
I think that Rey Mysterio's the murder thing should be excluded.
Yeah, we're not going to do murders or deaths.
No deaths.
Yeah.
They're excluded. Only injuries. They had to have walked away. Well, not necessarily walked away, but they had to be lived.
Yeah.
I think that's a good rule.
Ramblers out there, is that better? Can you hear me better now since my dumbass unmuted my microphone? I'm guessing you can.
Wow, the champ's being real hard on himself this week.
What did EJ say? She keeps it both straight. So
she said yes,
EJ.
Steve, Brian, and Rich.
All right.
I swear Derek's been in here messing with my stuff's what it is.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that he would have showed up at your house and not cracked you with a kendo stick. You gotta watch out for that guy, man.
The kendo stick. I was having flashbacks at Takeover last week, guys.
I bet you were.
Speaking of Takeover, let's go ahead and start with our pros and cons. A lot of wrestling in this last week, even though AEW is not here yet. We had Takeover, we had MLW, we had SummerSlam, Raw, SmackDown. A lot of great stuff going on. Steve, I'll let you start, my friend. You can pick pros or cons. Where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with pro this week, and mine is simply a wrestling match. I thought that Cedric Alexander versus Drew McIntyre was as good a wrestling match as I have seen in ages.
I would agree with that.
I can't argue with that.
I can't take anything away from that.
But
Man, and if you just looked at them, first off, it was a continuation of a story, which was good. Cedric had kind of injected himself into Drew's business for no apparent reason, and they had some heat. And then you look at them, and you may not think physically, well, they're a great match. They blew the door. They blew the doors off of Monday Night Raw the other night. They burned that place to the ground. That was the best wrestling match I have seen on a Monday night in ages.
I almost picked the match as well, Steve, but it was not on Raw. It was on SmackDown. But I'll leave it there because I don't want to dive in and possibly take someone else's.
That's my pro of
it's
the
a good
week.
one.
Kudos to Drew and Cedric. They burned a house down Monday night.
Absolutely. Brian, Rich, you guys want to touch on that, or?
I agree.
I agree too. It was an amazing match. I think people really underestimate Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander is incredible. I mean, we know Drew McIntyre's awesome,
right?
And Drew McIntyre's been awesome for a very long time. But Cedric Alexander has too, and I don't think a lot of people give him the credit that he deserves for being as good as he actually is.
I'll tell you what a prime example about Cedric Alexander is. Far too often you have people that watch the main shows, the big shows, the WWEs of the world. Cedric Alexander, up until right before he went to WWE, used to wrestle around here.
Mm-hmm.
He sure did.
Often. And, people missed out on him.
That's why you ought to get out and watch good indie wrestling, because you don't know, when you're watching the next Cedric Alexander.
I'll tell you right now, there are people in our area and surrounding states watching the next big stars at indie shows right now. And I know exactly who those people are. And if you haven't been watching the Gym Nasty Boys,
White Mike,
then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, the Gym Nasty Boys are going to go to AEW. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind. AEW just has to get them right in front of their eyeballs, and they're going to.
As much as I do not like Joey Ryan's dick gimmick, I would love for Joey Ryan to encounter White Mike to see how that would pan out.
I would like Jim Cornette to encounter White Mike, actually.
Right.
I will agree with that right there.
Another thing that I liked so much about the match that impressed me, I mean, McIntyre he's money. What impressed me about McIntyre's aspect of the match was the fact that he could have it with Alexander. He could sell when he needed to sell Alexander's moves, and he could move when he needed to move as quick as he needed to. For a man Drew McIntyre's size, when I watch him have a match against a guy who has the style of Cedric Alexander,
that's kind of how I feel about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar gets a bad rap. Everybody likes to talk smack about him, but think about some of the best matches in the last couple of years. Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles was a great match. Brock Lesnar, Daniel Bryan Good match. You know, Brock Lesnar,
Brock Lesnar's
Seth
had
Rollins.
great matches with Rey Mysterio as far as that goes.
Kurt Angle, you know, back in the day, that was great stuff.
Right.
But yeah,
Eddie
I'm with
Guerrero.
you, man. Eddie Guerrero.
Right. Okay, that's my pro this week, guys.
What I liked about the Cedric thing is that it showed that the smaller guys kind of get a chance to work with the big guys, you know? So, because for far too long it's been, oh, you're a cruiserweight, you only wrestle other cruiserweights, or you get squashed. Now, the Cedric match and also another match on SmackDown that we'll get to showed that smaller guys can actually go with the bigger guys, and I really enjoy that.
Don't get me wrong. I love watching the cruiserweights. I love 205. I always have. But you're exactly right, Rich. You're absolutely correct. If you've got good wrestlers on both sides of the ring, that big guy versus little guy stuff, if they're great wrestlers,
it works.
Like these two guys are, it works. It really does.
Well, it just goes back to the whole David versus Goliath thing. You know what I mean? It's always worked really well.
I was going to say
Kevin Nash,
the Vader Sting thing, but yeah, I guess David Goliath's account too.
Let's move on. Rich, quick, Brian Resner, which one of you guys want to go next?
I actually want to go last.
Well, you can't go last because I'm the champ and I go last.
Please, champ. I need to go last because I need to go first on the cons.
Pretty sure you was laughing when your protege Rich Quick was giving me a hard time there a minute ago, sir.
I was not. I was actually laughing at how bad Rich Quick was making himself look by
right.
Coming down on you.
Just stop talking. Just stop talking.
Just let me be last.
Rich Quick, go ahead.
All right, then. My pro of the week could honestly just be the fact that I had a hard time coming up with a con. There was so much good that happened. I had a really hard time picking a pro because there are so many that you could pick. You could say the NXT TakeOver show, which was really, really good. I could have said that, but I could have said SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Could have. But one particular part that I'm sure everybody is talking about, or that I know everybody is talking about, which is so good, and it was executed so well, was, say it with me, children, The Fiend.
That's mine too, sir.
We'll pick another one. There's a lot of good stuff out there. All right? So, all right. Pick another one. This is, but I feel I can articulate it better. The Fiend, the reintroduction of Bray Wyatt, well, not Bray, but The Fiend, to the WWE Universe was done so well. Starting from Finn Balor dressed all in white. And then, so he's the exact opposite of what's about to come down the ramp. Then it gets the new Let Him In thing, like on the Titantron. So it's a new entrance, it's new music, and that music is still the old song, but it's new, and it was awesome. Then he comes out with like awesome camera cuts. It looked like a movie, and it gave him his own personality and his own thing. He is completely different than his entrance. It's all different than anybody else, and it makes it special. And plus the lantern with his head, I popped huge for that.
Why did they backpedal?
I marked out over the lantern.
Why did they backpedal on that? Has anyone?
I actually reached out to Brad Shepard. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He breaks a lot of news stories. I reached out to him about it because I was curious as well, because that was one of the best things about the production, in my opinion. But he said he don't believe that they're going to take that off of TV. They're just not going to have it on their YouTube channel. They're going to edit it out for kids scrolling across WWE stuff. That being said, I'll let you finish your piece in a second, Rich. But
I'm sorry. As an 11-year-old, I can watch Kevin Sullivan indwelt with the spirit of Satan, and that's okay as an 11 or 12-year-old. But Bray Wyatt carrying a head that looks like the Fiend carrying Bray Wyatt's head for a lamp supposed to harm the children's. This whole nation needs to toughen up.
Wow, we're not going to get started on that, Steve. I agree. But anyway,
I love that speech.
Speaking of, since we're there and Steve's harping on children being scared about Bray Wyatt. My son, my mini-me, I'm sure you guys have all met him before.
Yes.
About halfway through Bray's entrance, he put his head in the pillow, and he kept asking me, Daddy, is it over yet? Is it over yet? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And that right there was just beautiful to me because, even back, I remember back in the day, that even with The Undertaker doing all his crazy stuff, I never had that moment where I was scared of something going on wrestling.
Guys, I'm telling you, this is no joke.
Gold,
you guys
baby.
know that my uncle, Dwayne Lee, God rest his soul, had a big satellite dish out in the front of his yard. He recorded wrestling from all over the country for me on VHS tapes and bring over a paper bag of VHS tapes. Championship Wrestling from Florida, and it had the angle where Kevin Sullivan was possessed with the scared the life out of him. I thought, why are they letting a man possessed by the devil wrestle?
Right,
right.
He's going. I'm telling you, it was something, And even though I was kind of starting, my parents were trying to smarten me up. This isn't real. And my grandpa, who had done some judo with some wrestlers in Columbus and this other stuff, I'm telling you, scared to death of Kevin Sullivan.
I hear you, man.
I was scared to death of Earthquake when I was 8 years old because he had done broke Hulk Hogan's ribs. He done killed Damien. He was a scary son of a bitch, and I wanted nothing to do with Earthquake when I was 8 years old.
There you go.
I think there's an earthquake upstairs.
Better watch out! The ghost of John Tenta is coming after you.
Like Jake Roberts was a scary guy.
Oh,
I mean, he was scared children.
oh yeah.
So may I continue?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, Rich.
All right. No, it's fine. Jump in there anytime. But okay, so carrying the head, there's just so much symbolism in this whole character. It is so brilliantly done, and the whole. I like the fact that he has a new finisher. Bray Wyatt uses Sister Abigail. The Fiend has the mandible claw. So I like just everything about it.
I also love
beautiful.
the mannerisms during the match. You can see him trying to channel, snap out of it. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Trying to come back to reality, so to speak. It's great.
Well, he would bring up like the heel and hurt, like gloves, and then he would listen to hurt.
Right.
It's just little things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. Question for you, Rich.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys see, because I can't remember if I sent it to you on our message group or posted it in the Ramble page or whatever, did you guys see where Wyatt had cut that promo a few years ago about the man in the woods?
That was amazing.
The fact, if WWE doesn't run that promo again and tie all of this together, they're missing a great opportunity here, because whoever went back and found that and said, oh my goodness, the Fiend is the guy in the woods that had Bray's, what was it, a ball?
Slingshot.
Slingshot, that's what it was.
With yellow eyes.
And they need to bring that around. If you can look at those old promos, they had rabbits in them. And do you guys remember, if I may, allow me to ramble, do you guys remember how pissed off we all were when the puppets came about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember how pissed off Brian Resner was at the Vulture puppet? We thought we were being worked. We were afraid to. Oh, we were being worked, but not in the way that we thought.
Right.
We thought we were going to be introduced to some cartoon Bray Wyatt. And guys, they've absolutely brought something from years back with this man in the woods, the Fiend. And they've
So much opportunity.
So much.
I was so worried about how they were going to have Bray Wyatt as the Fiend in the ring, and it was brilliantly done. Brilliantly done. He wasn't completely squashing somebody. To me, it kind of felt like the old Michael Myers, Jason horror movies. You're beating on the guy. He's stumbling, but he's still coming at you. Still coming at you.
Right. I mean, it very much felt like that, and I think Finn is one of those guys who could lose a match to the Fiend, and you're not taking a whole lot.
If you remember, Brian, weeks ago.
Comes back.
If you remember, Brian, weeks ago, I mentioned that I hope that they did not have the Fiend versus the Demon, and you was like, yeah, they're going to rush it. I'm glad they didn't, because now Balor can take some time off. The Fiend can go and do his thing. Months down the line, the Demon can try to get his revenge on the Fiend, and that would be a great program.
That's money.
I
Absolutely.
want to make one next comment as we close out Rich's pro here. I'm privy to some information concerning, and I can't even reveal how, but concerning Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, and Sister Abigail. And I hope to be able to break that exclusive to the Royal Ramble universe in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
If you break that, then it will simply be wonderful. Sorry.
Well, not to rain on this this Bray Wyatt celebration,
Here we
but
go.
I have to say that watching the match, I couldn't help but wonder if that mask was comfortable to wear. And a lot of the, I think maybe he may played off where you were talking about, like where he would grab his head and he
was adjusting the mask, you think?
I think that was a lot of adjustment process. The reason why I say this is because I have been known to wear masks and do physical activities, and I know
Wait a
what
minute.
it's like.
It's not
to
that
be
kind
in
of
the
show,
ring.
Brian.
I know what it's like to be in the ring with a mask that is very uncomfortable.
Bring out the
And
vamp.
when it just seemed like I kind of caught that vibe. Maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but it makes me wonder what kind of alterations we're going to see to the costume to make it more user friendly.
They could even they could take that down. Oh, did you catch that about the man in the woods with the yellow eyes? Huh? They could even take this down to even a lighter mask or even face paint, and I think still make.
I loved his entrance attire. I wanted to see him wrestle in that leather jacket. I'm like, just go there and whoop his ass. Come on.
I don't think face paint could capture what he's got going on.
Okay.
His mask is incredible. It would be really hard to capture that with face paint.
Well, we'll see if he's able to. And it looks.
But I
thick,
could be
too,
completely
you know?
wrong, and it might fit perfect, and it might be no issue. But it just seems like a really weird mask too.
Well, you got to
know
think.
who
I mean, obviously Slipknot's not out there bumping around in their mask, but the creator of Slipknot's mask is the one that created Bray Wyatt's mask. So he's used to.
Look, Bray was going for.
Yeah, he's used to having to create a mask that is sweaty and a lot and worn for a long period of time. You know what I mean?
Very, very true. I've seen Slipknot, a lot of fire, a lot of movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that.
And an attempt at singing by Slipknot as well.
Hey, Corey Taylor is amazing. Don't get me started,
Yeah.
Steve.
Corey Taylor's incredible.
I know
You're
Corey
you're
Taylor's
coming to a
incredible.
solo party on this one. Corey Taylor's amazing.
Well, he's no Simon LeBon, but all right.
Simon Lama La
I
Bamba.
don't even know who that is. Simon LeBon.
It's called Duran Duran. Look it up.
Okay.
Duran
Ordinary
Duran.
World is one of the greatest songs ever written. But
My child.
Rich Quick, do you have closing thoughts on this since this was your pro, sir?
No, I think you all said it very well. You were on board with me, and I think the entire world is on board with me. Maybe not Resner. But
no, I totally am. I was just being the devil's advocate. I love the character.
Well-
I love Bray Wyatt. I love this whole thing.
WWE's
But I
got
just
some
hope the
gold
mask
here. They
fits.
better recognize they've got a hot commodity.
Hey, I gotta go ahead and put our buddy Matt Mullins over here on Facebook, guys.
All right.
He says, Allison Resner, quit making that boy wear mask in the bedroom.
tell her. Tell her right now.
Yeah,
yeah.
TMI.
But we will be seeing a lot more of The Fiend, I think, because from what I understand, he had a lot of merch for sale. Plus, they're selling the Firefly Fun. If Rowan,
Say that three
if you did
times
not
fast.
if you did not buy your son the Firefly Funhouse,
Hell, just say it once, Rich.
playset,
You let me tell you.
I will come.
I've got to say, since you brought that up, I've got to say one thing before we move on. My 1-year-old is completely all over the place when wrestling's on. Sometimes he's watching it. Sometimes he's trying to grab the remote. Sometimes he's trying to flip off the bed. Who knows what he's trying to do? But when Firefly
Why is this kicking y'all's ass tonight? Y'all cannot. You want me to help you guys?
Firefly Funhouse comes on, he is locked to the TV. He like literally stares at the TV with kind of a weird look on his face. I kind of don't like it, but either way,
He doesn't know what
one
Rambling
thing
Rabbit
that gets his
is.
attention. It's one thing that definitely gets his attention is when anytime that Bray Wyatt has anything going on TV.
So what you're saying is that you're going to buy the play set, but it's not going to be for him. It's going to be for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Of course, all my wrestling toys are for me. I let him borrow them.
All right, since Rich Quick stole my pro, I'm going to go ahead and give my pro to someone who very rarely gets it from me. And it's not just him, it's a match like I referenced earlier. Buddy Murphy versus Roman Reigns. That was a great match. Mm-hmm. I feel like Buddy Murphy oversold the spear at the end. I thought that was a little much. But all in all, it was a great match. And there was no point in the match where I thought Buddy Murphy was going to sneak one over on Roman. But it was a good match. And it was nice, like we talked about earlier, seeing these younger guys, these more these less established guys get the chance to perform with the big guys, so to speak.
Yeah, showcase their talents. I mean, that's talent of the future, right?
Buddy Murphy's incredible.
Mm-hmm. He is incredible. And I agree with you, Covey Cole, that it was great. But I have to say that that the whole Buddy Murphy thing on SmackDown, I have a bruise on my leg from where I hit myself during the Daniel Bryan part of that, because they had the opportunity. They introduced. Did you hear how the commentators put Buddy Murphy over?
Oh yeah.
When he, like on his way to the ring, they're like, "You guys have never seen anything like this guy. He is incredible. He is to be." And he put on a great match with Roman Reigns. And I thought, "Oh my God, they are putting Buddy Murphy over. Huge. He's going to be somebody." And then afterwards, he gets in the thing with. Good Lord. Now's when you mute the mic, man. Now.
What happened to John? What's going on? Is he okay?
I like how we're showing more concern right now than when he got hit with a kendo stick.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty beat up. I get beat with a kendo stick, and I was just like, ah!
Now it was really funny in hindsight, though.
He snorts water
and
out
foresight.
of his nose.
Yeah. But he gets approached by Rowan and Daniel Bryan, and yes, Daniel Bryan had said that was a false confession because anybody will say anything when you press their head up against the wall. So what does Daniel Bryan do? Presses Buddy Murphy's head up against the wall and says, tell me it was a lie. Tell me it was a lie. And that was the moment where they could have made Buddy Murphy. They could have made him a huge baby face. And I don't, because what he did, he said, yes, I lied. He caved. They just put him over as like the next big thing. And then he caves. What he should have said was he's like, give me a name. Who did it? And he's pressed up against the wall and goes, Rowan. And he should have just stuck and should have just told him that Rowan. And then they beat him up. Roman Reigns comes in, saves the day. That sets up a Roman Reigns Buddy Murphy tag team against them leading into the next pay-per-view. I feel they really, really missed the boat, and they did a huge disservice to Buddy Murphy. And I'm a little mad at him.
What a point.
They could work
that
this
was
Reigns
solid.
versus Daniel Bryan a long time. They really could.
Mm-hmm. That was a solid point, Mr. Quick.
Thank you. That's why
Very
I'm here.
good.
Now
Very
say Firefly Funhouse.
I was about to say something else that started with an F. All right.
Hey now. All right, Resner, I'll give you the last there, buddy. What you got for your pro?
All right. Well, I'm going to be the last pro, and I'm going to be the first con. And I tell you why, John Covey Cole. Because my pro this week is the return of one of my favorite things when I was a kid, the King of
Savio
the Ring.
Vega.
No, the King of the Ring. The King of the Ring coming back makes me so happy. I love hearing those words together. I love knowing we're going to see a tournament. I love tournaments. And just everything about the King of the Ring makes me extremely happy.
Did you hear that stat? 12 Hall of Famers, Brian. It's no wonder it's your pro and why you love it so much. 12 Hall of Famers have been Kings of the Ring, including the late Harley Race.
That is 100% true. I mean, it really, when you look down the list, for the most part, I'd say 85% of the list is the who's who of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got a Mabel in there. You got a Billy Gunn in there. There are some dumb ones. There's a Wade Barrett in there. But there's
Wade
Steve
Barrett
Austin
was
in there.
great. He just didn't get the push,
Yeah, but
man.
he's gone now, and I haven't seen him. He might as well be CM Punk. So
He wishes he was CM Punk.
Wade Barrett never made it to the top of the WWE, but a lot of kings did. Stone Cold, Bret Hart. I mean, Owen was a king. There was just so many great kings. I loved King Booker.
King Harley, Randy Savage.
Loved it. All of them. And you know what? And that's the coolest thing about the King of the Ring, which we're going to talk more about the King of the Ring later on in the show and go over a couple of details that I don't want to spill right now. But the thought that this is basically a tournament for a gimmick. This gimmick will be good for the next year at least, maybe the rest of your career. You never know how long this gimmick is going to last on your career, and it's going to be fantastic.
Well, see, if we're going to talk about who we think's going to win, all that kind of stuff,
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. I just want to say that I really hope that they don't do the gimmick, because that kills people. You can either turn it into a King Booker or you become Wade Barrett, or and you kind of do that thing. So
I feel like the King gimmick has to be given to somebody who can use it. Like when Billy Gunn won the King of the Ring, he was not a king, and he was never going to be a king. Triple H could have been a king, later on became a king, but while he was the king, did not want anything to do with the crown or that gimmick at all. But and Stone Cold didn't use the gimmick. He won the King of the Ring, and he never once called himself the king.
How much more did he need the King of the Ring gimmick when he just came up with the greatest catchphrase?
You're right.
In the latter half of the 20th century, when Stone Cold won that match and said Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass." He didn't need the King of the Ring gimmick from that moment on.
Well, Bret Hart didn't use the King gimmick either. Sheamus did, and it was really cool. Booker T did, and it was awesome. It was probably cooler than anything he ever did.
Booker got years of mileage, him and Queen Charmel, out of the King of the Ring.
Yeah, and so Macho Man Randy Savage, the Macho King, was everything to me when I was a kid.
Yeah, what else was Macho going to do at that point? He becomes the Macho King at that point. I mean, extended that gimmick. Gave him another gimmick and extended. Who calls himself the Macho King? I mean, it's ridiculous. But on Randy Savage, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it works. It works. No one in the history of the world has used the word macho as good as Randy Savage did.
Well, that's because it died in '79 along with disco, except Randy didn't stop using it, I mean, you would have thought that, disco's dying in 79 or 80. Oh, well, Randy kept using it, and Vince let him keep it, and, I mean, it was amazing. He used it his entire life.
You know what else is amazing, Steve? Sorry, I just had to...
Oh, you come back to life from choking to death over there, did you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, did Derek Jones sneak in and poison your water over there?
Well, I guess he was trying to set up my system earlier and mute my damn microphone.
Hey, let me tell you something else there, champ. All right. Oh, Lord, there he goes. Okay.
All right. Firefly.
I'm glad you like your little title there, but isn't there a little, I don't know, thing we had a little while back called Ramble in the Bank? You're being awful cocky over there.
Yeah, you act like there's not a potential challenger out there, John.
Well, I mean, he's there, but I ain't heard from him, so I ain't really worried about it, to be honest with you.
Do you even know his name?
Yeah, Derek Stowers, but like I said, I ain't heard from him, so I ain't worried about it. I mean,
well,
when he's ready to cash in, he'll get a hold of me.
with you. I think he can just. I think that kind of.
Well, he seems like a very honorable person. I feel like he.
24/7 championship match is what it's going to look
You're
like.
going to get rolled up in your front yard.
In here, and pins you.
No, I don't think Stowers is like that. He seems like a very honorable guy. I think he's going to give me a heads up and let me know when it's about to go down. So I ain't worried about it, really.
All right.
Because you would do the exact same thing, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Riz, were you going to do a con right after your pro? Was that your intent?
You know what my con is? My con is the WWE brought back the King of the Ring. And then they just put it on Monday Night Raw next week. No build-up.
Are they doing the whole show on Raw?
No, we'll go through the details of what's going on. But it starts next week. There's no build. There's no time to promote. And it's not even on pay-per-view. I don't understand why we can't have an 8-man King of the Ring pay-per-view tournament instead of shows like Roadblock or what was the one? Great Balls of Fire. Yeah. I mean, King of the Ring can't be a pay-per-view. You can't be a pay-per-view where these guys were. I mean, you could do a whole pay-per-view with 8 guys and you ain't going to do it? Why? That makes absolutely no sense. And the fact that they announced it for next week means they came up with this idea probably maybe a couple days before they went on Raw. Like they were like, hey, we should bring back King of the Ring. Let's do it next week. Okay. Who the hell's in charge of this meeting? Somebody needs to be. Somebody needs to be, because you don't just throw the King of the Ring out next week. How many wrestling fans missed Raw and have no idea the King of the Ring's coming back?
Well,
how many wrestling fans aren't wrestling fans anymore that might come back and watch wrestling if the King of the Ring's happening?
Well, that's not a valid argument, Brian, because the way social media is now, they've either heard about it or they're going to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't like the fact that they just announced all the competitors. There was no.
I'm with you there, Rich. I didn't like that.
It very much should have been a ceremony. You could have done the selection of the King of the Ring entrance next week. Make a big deal out of it as you bring the 8 guys out and you explain why they've been chosen to be King of the Ring entrants, what their resumes are, why they qualify, so on and so forth. You could have started on the process with the King of the Ring selections next week, and that could have even morphed into, you had guys disappointed that they didn't make the cut. What are you telling me, that I'm not one of the 8 best guys on this roster right now? And it's going to be.
They could have used it.
8, aren't there?
No, there's 16. There's 8 from 16. Each show.
That's what it is.
We'll get into that later. We'll get into all the details, and we'll announce everything. But the last thing I want to say about this con that ties right in with it is the fact that the one man who could really benefit from a new gimmick like the King, one man who's not in this tournament whatsoever,
one man band,
would be King Lashley. King Lashley.
Oh, I thought you were going to say King of the Trailer Park, Heath Slater.
Well, that one could work too, but no, King Lashley would be an incredible gimmick for Lashley to throw out. I mean, it would be great for Lashley, and he's not even in it.
Trailer Park King Heath Slater.
I love it.
Would get over.
Bucket right now.
Trailer Park King Heath Slater would get over.
You could have his brother-in-law come across the way to have Jamie Noble come out there, help him win some matches. You know what I mean?
Wow, you are writing gold right now. That's what you're doing.
With Jamie Noble as his manager, and you find him some Trailer Park honey, find one of your up-and-coming divas as the wife from back home in Pineville, West Virginia, and she's got the youngins out on the road with
gold.
Well, I mean, and it would be something as easy as, okay, now Heath wrestles in jeans and like a dirty wife beater.
Yeah, absolutely.
And wears like a Burger King crown.
What? Jeans and a dirty wife beater. What are we going to call him, Dean Ambrose after that?
Dean Ambrose had a pretty damn good career, so yes, he was world champion. So
that's a step up for Heath right there.
That's Heath Ambrose.
Yeah.
All right. So who's the next con?
All right, I'm going to go.
Go ahead, Steve.
All right, mine comes from the world of AEW. And today, the Young Bucks called my friend Jim Cornette a shot jock carny because he's been critical of some of their matches.
Some of their matches?
Oh,
All of their
Most of their matches.
All right. AEW signed Orange freaking Cassidy
Yeah, that's stupid.
this week.
That's what
So-
I thought your con was.
Nakazawa,
I did too.
the
I thought that was your con
Librarians,
as well.
Orange Cassidy, Joey Janela, and Marco Stunt, who should have never stepped in a wrestling
Hold
ring.
on. Who's Marco Stunt?
He's the little short kid, about 5
Oh,
feet.
okay.
He's 20. He's like 26, but he looks like he's 12.
I know what you're
Yes.
talking about. I know what you're talking
Yes,
about. He was in the
looks
Battle
like a
Royal,
small
the
child.
first
Yes.
one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If
He also hangs
AEW
out
thinks
with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy.
if AEW thinks that they can book these guys like Orange Cassidy and the Librarians and Marco Stunt and pose a real serious threat to World Wrestling Entertainment, they're sadly mistaken.
Well, Cody Rhodes has recently said that AEW has only announced about 40% of their roster. So who knows who else?
But then again, Rich Quick,
You know what?
if somebody was,
He said
if somebody
that
was,
in a
if
tweet
somebody was on
exchange.
your ass, wouldn't you say the same thing?
He said that in a tweet exchange. Like, I don't understand why most of Cody's news he's dropping in arguments with fans online.
Well, I'm just telling you, there has to be a grown-up in charge, or Old Man Khan is going to lose a lot of money really fast. TNT will drop them like a hot rock. This is supposed to be the alternative to WWE. All right? It's not supposed to be WWE light. It's not supposed to be like WWE. It's supposed to be, more like the old WCW. And I'm just telling you that guys like Orange Cassidy with this stupid falling into yourself, and then they had the other guy from MLW that fell back into the table, Mance Warner. Fell stupid. The ghost of somebody came and speared him through a table last week. I'm sick of the gimmick wrestlers. And Derek Jones, if you're listening, you can bring a kendo stick and try to hit me with it because they're stupid. If you got Young Bucks bringing guys like Orange Cassidy in, it's stupid. It's an affront to guys like Harley Race and guys like Ric Flair and guys like Terry Funk and guys like Mick Foley.
John Covey Cole.
Because even within the context of those extreme matches, there was still wrestling. So anybody that thinks that the Mance Warners with the Ghost Table or the Orange Cassidys or the Librarians have anything to do with the sport of professional wrestling.
May I, Mr. New?
May.
This is my thing. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you about 95%. The problem, the loophole, rather, in your con for me is you got to remember that everything in wrestling isn't for everybody. I'm not opposed to having these idiots sprinkled in here and there in the show. Think about WCW back in the day. I'm going to say back in the day. It's not back in the day for you. It's back in the day for me. Monday Night Wars. You had Glacier. You had Van Hammer. You had
Raven's Flock.
There was a bunch of little stupid stuff sprinkled in here and there. And as long as it don't overpower the product, I think you're going to be fine. But Joey Janela, he does not need to be booked in these high-profile matches with Hangman Adam Page. You want Adam Page to be a credible superstar and a main event guy, you cannot put him in there with Joey Janela. That's just me.
Or Marco Runt.
Or Orange Dingleberry or whatever his name is.
Or if you want to be honest about it, you can't put him near Jungle Boy or Jimmy Havoc either. If you want to be your number one guy, you need to put him with top guys like MJF, Jericho, Kenny Omega.
That's the only
who you
way
need to put him
that
around.
Hangman Adam Page is going to get any traction, because if he's in there with Orange Cassidy,
Orange Dingleberry, that's his new name.
I'm going to turn it off.
Well,
they're not going to get my
thing-
money. They're not going to get my support.
One thing that I have to say about what you said that no one grabbed a hold of, but really resonated, was the fact that you were talking about TNT's going to drop them like a hot rock. What you don't understand, and what a lot of people aren't thinking about, we're thinking, oh, wrestling's back on TNT, awesome. Back then, Ted, it was his project. He loved WCW, and WCW was able to lose a lot of money and was able to. I mean, it was his pet project. He didn't care how much money he lost. He loved it, and he wanted it on his TV show.
Right.
He wanted it on his TV channel.
Because it had always been on, from the time that TBS went national. What was Georgia Championship Wrestling? See, I'm showing my age. Because I remember when WTBS was a WTBS Channel 17 from Atlanta, Georgia. And Ted Turner took that thing nationwide. And there was Georgia Championship Wrestling.
That's why I'm an Atlanta Braves fan.
A lot of people are Atlanta Braves fans because Dale Murphy and the Atlanta Braves came on. They sometimes interrupted Georgia Championship Wrestling. But you got Saturday night, 6:05, the Mothership. And then Sunday nights at 7:05, you got more wrestling. But Brian's exactly right. Ted Turner loved Georgia Championship Wrestling.
But
and World
Ted Turner has
Championship
no
Wrestling.
say over that now. Tom Warner is in charge. And Tom Warner was ready to cancel WCW. Right now, somebody got wind that, these guys are selling a lot of tickets to these shows. Maybe we can turn this into something. The key word is maybe. If it doesn't work out, they'll scrap it. That's what TV channels do.
I was about to say, and a lot of people don't even realize, but you kind of got the same thing going on with Fox and WWE. There's no guarantee that WWE is going to work on Fox. They're like, okay, we'll give it a shot here. Here's some money. You guys, we'll try it out. But,
Well, you notice they're not doing it with Raw.
Right.
Raw's going to be on US, and USA is 100% cool with Raw. Raw has always done well for USA since the days of, even of primetime wrestling before Raw existed.
I'm telling you,
Monday
brothers.
night spot is as classic as the TBS spots you were talking about a minute ago.
It surely is. And USA Network has had a relationship with the WWF that predated broadcasts. Because as I alluded to last week with Snuka off the cage on the Morocco, if USA Network didn't have programming, they just tapped into the MSG feed that night and gave the nation WWF wrestling. Out of the middle of nowhere, unannounced. That's how long USA's relationship with the WWF goes back. Almost to that, I think with TBS and Georgia's like 79, 80. Same thing with USA and Madison Square Garden and the WWF. And then they got the shows. Joe Blanchard screwed around and wouldn't come up with the money for USA Network to keep Southwest Championship Wrestling on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m.
I just seen the twinkle in your eye. You just had a flashback, didn't you?
He had that, and that was great wrestling. If you're not watching it on Jarrett Parsons, go watch some good Joe Blanchard wrestling. A lot of guys got their starts there. Shawn Michaels got baby-faced 19-year-old Shawn Michaels wrestling on Southwest. And then, boom, Joe Blanchard screwed up, and Vince McMahon swooped in and put All-American Wrestling on Sundays at noon. And it was over. It was over at that point. When Vince went national, it was over.
Well, what do you think about the rumor of NXT moving to FS1 or whatever on Wednesday nights to combat AEW? Now, do you think that is just a thing of, well, we'll put it up against NXT, or we'll put up them up against NXT, or do you think it's a way to go, here are two minor league programs you can choose from? They're really not the big leagues.
Is that not a win-win for Vince? I'm going to put my third-rated program on my third tier, pal, up against your show, and it's still going to beat it on FS1. Vince would love that competition.
It's a horrible idea to do right off the gate, though.
I agree. I'm not saying that I agree. All I'm saying, Rich, is I can see McMahon wanting some type of a head-to-head matchup.
In NXT's defense, I feel like if it was established properly, NXT would get better ratings than Raw or SmackDown with the storylines and the matches they have. If it was put out there
when
properly,
it goes to 2 hours, you're 100% right.
It's going to be
2
huge.
hours is going to add some story, some serious story to NXT.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if it moves to Fox or FS1, Vince McMahon's going to have a hand in it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And that's the problem.
Right.
So
Real quick before we move on to
Rich
the
is
next
saying
con.
keep Grandpa off the book.
Real quick before we move on to the next con, I'm going to say this. Orange Cassidy, I'm not a huge fan of, but there's still time to save him, in my opinion. If you bring somebody in that just beats the living shit out of this guy with his hands in his pocket, and then the guy comes back next week with his hands out of his pocket, $1 million. But
well, I don't know if you guys did any of the research that we talked about like 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were saying Orange Cassidy can actually go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Get your hands out of your pockets and go, dude.
I understand that the hands in the pockets thing is stupid. I don't like the soft kicks. I don't like the soft punches. But if you got the match where he's actually doing something, he's actually really
That's what I was just saying. It could be done. It could be done.
Didn't you just say that?
I just said the same thing. Yeah.
I know what you're saying, Brian.
But you know what? The hands in the pockets kip up is awesome.
That is impressive. That is impressive. Rich Quick, you want to do your con?
Sure. I would actually like very much to get Steve New's opinion on this. But my con of the week is the rumor that WWE is inquiring about the purchase of the Fight app. Did you hear that?
I did.
I heard some rumblings, but I don't know how valid they are.
I just thought it was a bad rumor. I didn't know there was a lot of legitimacy to it.
They don't need the Fight app, though. They have the network. Why do they need the Fight app?
Because they can control all the independent wrestling that is shown on that app. They could essentially, a lot of people watch wrestling on that app. Mm-hmm. You could essentially go, all right, bye.
I would personally try to talk Court Bauer into bringing a federal antitrust lawsuit against Vince McMahon and the WWE if the WWE buys the Fight app so as to quash competition, which is in essence what it would be doing, then I think that Court Bauer and MLW, not to mention you talk ROH and the other wrestling shows that come on there, into bringing a federal antitrust lawsuit.
I'm not an attorney, but that's absurd, Steve. You telling me that this guy can't go and buy out his competition to say?
No, you could no.
To hinder them from growing?
Mean anything to you?
No.
All right. Oh. Well, there was this guy named John Rockefeller.
I've heard of him.
Okay, and he had all of the oil in the country.
Okay.
And he had this big company called Standard Oil. And the United States government thought it'd be a real good idea to break that sucker up. Now, in the latter half of the 20th century, we got away from antitrust, Glass-Steagall Act, that kind of stuff, and we let bigger mergers and acquisitions, we let banks get way too big. I'm not getting political. I'm just explaining why it's illegal.
Disney owns everything.
What's that?
I said Disney owns everything now.
I know, and I mean,
hey, Big Cliff says I love story time with Stephen P. New.
In days of old, companies like Disney, AT&T would not have been allowed to get as big as they're allowed to get. But you can't just buy up your competition or your competition's access to the market without getting sued for antitrust.
That is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Ben, I don't know if they have antitrust laws in Great Britain.
Oh, they ain't got nothing worth stealing over there.
They had some tea, but we threw it in the water.
That's exactly right. So I'm glad that you love story time with Stephen P. New. I'm done.
Hey,
that may be illegal. It'll be interesting to watch, though, Rich. Or he could do it just like we were mentioning USA Wrestling. Vince put All American Wrestling out there with the idea, and he went to the other promoters and said, hey, pals, send me your tapes of your biggest stars, and I'll show it on All American Wrestling. He showed their wrestlers for about 6 months, and it stole the top talent. He stole JYD from Mid-South and all.
Without going too far down the rabbit hole, though, how is that okay? How is that okay? Vince bought up all the territories and ran with it.
Nope.
So what you're saying, if the right guy was there then, they could have stopped him? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who is in the White House at the time, whose Department of Justice would want to prosecute that, with antitrust. And there's two ways to get at antitrust. The federal government can bring it through the Department of Justice, or there could be a private lawsuit for antitrust. If you're one of the companies that's affected by antitrust practices.
Wow, you're so much smarter than me. Let's talk wrestling.
I'm sorry. Sorry? I thought it was relevant to what Rich asked.
It was.
He's smarter than you at wrestling too. So why? It's a double-edged sword there, Covey Cole.
Yeah, you're right.
But thank you very much, Stephen Pino.
Well, y'all
That was
talk
my-
wrestling.
That was my con because I thought, I'm like, oh, that seems very petty, and and somewhat illegal. So I'm glad we cleared that up. And this has been story time. Stephen Pino.
That gimmick's sticking. Damn you, Ben Cliff. I'm afraid that gimmick's sticking.
Make a T-shirt, baby.
All right, so I guess I'm last, right? It's probably going to upset some people, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. My con, as great as the match between Gargano and Adam Cole was, my con was they did a frickin' super Canadian Destroyer off the top rope and kick out of it. What the hell? I've mentioned on the show I like to have some believability in my wrestling. You're telling me you flipped off the top rope, pile drove this guy into the mat, and he kicked down. Oh my God! Had to been instincts. That's all it was.
Yeah, that was a little ridiculous.
Shirt. That's the kind
What a
of thing
great
that
match,
Hogan would have
though.
done back in the day.
That ain't gonna work for me, brother.
Oh,
What
it
a
was a great
fantastic match, though.
Yeah.
It was, but that right there ruined it for me.
It was great. I think John's got a legitimate
That
point.
should have been the finish.
Finishers need to be finishers these days. I think there's way too many kickouts of legit finishers. Like when Randy Orton hits an RKO, and I mean, unless it's just an act of God, that ought to end the match. Or just Super Canadian Destroyer off the top rope. That ought to.
The actual finish was cool. Okay, I'll give you that. But don't do the Super Canadian Destroyer.
Okay, well, I agree with you. God, mark it on a calendar. I agree with you. Is that if Adam Cole is supposed, who in my opinion is Shawn Michaels reincarnate, even though he's still alive, but he is the next Shawn Michaels. He could be, in theory. You know what I'm saying? But
So many of those.
Yeah, but he talk. I mean, he kind of looks like Shawn Michaels, but he can talk better than Shawn Michaels, in my opinion.
Whoa.
No, okay.
Hold on, let
Whoa.
Rich finish.
He can talk like he could be and probably will be a future world champion in the on the main roster. I hope he rises to the top wherever he goes. But the fact of how can he make it to the next level if he can't put out Johnny Gargano with his finisher? Like Johnny Gargano's a little guy. How is he going to get to the main roster and do that to Bobby Lashley? How can he do that to Brock Lesnar? He can't. And
Big Cliff.
You're right. You're making those are great points, Rich.
Ben Cliff had to smart me up here. He said it wasn't a Canadian Destroyer. It was a Panama Sunrise, JCC. Well, I'm sorry.
It was.
That is different.
But you know what? It was very, very
to me.
similar to a Canadian Destroyer.
Yeah, but anyway, still, tell me if I'm wrong, Ben Cliff. That should have been the finish of the match. And if you say I'm wrong, then you're an idiot. Sorry. That just really bothers me because I was so into that match.
It was a great match. It was a great weekend for wrestling. I mean, honest to goodness, starting on the Fight TV app Friday evening, through the Ring of Honor show, all the way up through NXT Takeover, SummerSlam.
How about the crowd for that Ring of Honor show?
Yeah.
That was probably the lowest crowd attendance I have ever seen at a Ring of Honor event.
Bully Ray is talking about AEW sucking all the air.
No, what's happening is everybody that comes to the Ring of Honor shows, Bully Ray pulls to the back and bitches at him for saying stuff to his old ladies. What happens?
Well, did you see that picture that they released of that crowd? I mean, literally, it looked like Gary Dameron done beat him.
Well, I mean, that is what scares the Bully Rays of the world and the guys that are aligned with Impact and ROH. And I'm telling you, if AEW doesn't screw it up, and they catch fire on TNT and with their brand and everything like that, then those other, we'll call them minor promotions, MLW,
And
NW,
federations, ain't there, Brian?
New
That's right.
Japan, and all those, ROH, Impact, they've got some thinking to do about where they fit in a wrestling world that's got two top companies again. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But that Bully was really hoping, for a big show. That was in Toronto, right? I mean, they were also in Toronto with the ROH show, right?
Ring of Honor,
I'm not sure about that.
if you think about it, Ring of Honor just got so screwed because they got the Garden with New Japan with the popularity of Kenny Omega and all his buddies, and then before the Garden show comes, they bail out. Well, Ring of Honor helped put All In on, and now next thing you know, you got this whole other company that you
Well, and
helped
the Jericho
put on the
Cruise.
map. Yeah,
Okay.
the Jericho Cruise. Yeah.
Here's a question I was about to pose, but you brought it up in before I got to it. If you were Ring of Honor, do you regret
Oh, absolutely.
doing All In?
Absolutely.
Because you essentially started this whole thing.
But
You're
then
like,
again,
yeah,
at the
sure.
same time, Rich Quick, at the same time, when wrestling's good, typically it helps everyone. Typically.
I know.
But,
Yeah,
but
it's typically not going to help ROH.
no.
Or Impact.
No, Impact's already like. I bet you if the guys from Impact leave messages on Tony Khan's answering machine every day.
They wish they could get that phone number.
Well, then they're calling. I can guarantee you they're calling somebody with offers. Please buy us. Please buy us.
He's like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, we don't need you.
Here's some
Guys,
tickets
we've been
for the
here an
show,
hour and we haven't even got to the weekly
Sorry,
news
guys.
yet. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back and actually we're going to come back and go ahead and go into our topic this week, and then we'll get to the news at the end of the show if we have time. Once again, our topic this week is what is the worst injury to ever take place in a match? Not a death. We're not talking about when Rey Mysterio killed that guy by accident or
Oh,
yeah,
that was more Conan. If anything.
Olale. Arriba la raza. We'll be right back, guys.
Since 2001, drug companies dumped 1 billion opioid pills in West Virginia, causing over 3,000 overdose deaths and thousands of babies born addicted by no fault of their own. I'm attorney Stephen New. If you're the grandparent or guardian of a child born with neonatal abstinence syndrome, call me. I'll help you seek just compensation.
Call the law offices of Stephen P. New at 1-844-BAD-PILLS before time runs out.
Since 2001, drug companies
Two attorneys, one location. Gavin Ward and Josh Miller.
Hello, my name's Gavin Ward. I'm an attorney serving Southern West Virginia. If you need help with a real estate transaction or closing, probating an estate, a property dispute, estate planning, or bankruptcy, give us a call. We can help.
Hello, I'm attorney Josh Miller. I serve Southern West Virginia. If you've been injured in a car accident or hurt on the job or charged with a crime, please come see me today. I can help.
For a free consultation, call 681-207-7400. All right, Steve, welcome back.
All right, ROH, New Japan, CMLL, NW. Summer Supercard was August 9th in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The reason why I brought that up, Brian, was there's obviously, I listened to Bully a lot because I was in the car a lot last week. There were a lot of wrestling fans in Toronto last weekend. So, I mean, it was a perfect opportunity for those wrestling fans that almost...
I heard SmackDown's house wasn't that good this week either.
It may not have been, and SmackDown's attendance has been way down as of late. But, you know, if you got that many wrestling fans in one city at a time, you wouldn't think that the crowds would suffer. You'd think that the crowds would actually be up, you know, like what happens on a WrestleMania weekend.
People like what people like, though.
Maybe that picture that I seen wasn't from the Toronto show. I'm not 100% sure, so I can't 100% say that yes, that was the same crowd. But I know that the ROH crowd that I seen was really, really low. It was like I'd say there was probably 100 people there.
Oh. They're not even pulling SCW numbers, baby.
No, they're not. They're not doing SCW numbers in ROH. But maybe they got an upswing in Toronto, and I'm wrong about the date. I'm not sure, but
well, you know why they didn't draw as many people as SCW? Because they didn't have Rich Quick. Well, they didn't have. Oh, no, well, thank you. Oh, well, we were a package deal. I was going to say Shane Douglas, and that was just a segue into you to quickly pitch your thing real quick.
Oh, yes.
Shane Douglas.
You're talking about Shane Douglas, the guy that I'm going to start doing a podcast with on the 27th?
You are?
Yes, I've been really working hard, guys, man. I'm telling you, my research game is getting crazy, and I am you know what is awesome about Franchise with Shane Douglas? Is it's sponsored by Stephen P. New. And Stephen P. New is going to be now he's the lawyer for the Cult of Cornette. Now he's going to be
in fact.
The franchise lawyer.
That's right.
The franchise lawyer. So who knows what kind of cases he's going to get in now with a client like Shane Douglas.
The craziest guys that you could possibly imagine. And I'm going to see Shane in October in Madison. In fact.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is great.
As reported by Joey yesterday, PW Insider reported that the Ring of Honor Summer Supercard only managed to bring in a little over 1,000 people.
Wow.
Not good. Not good. Not on the weekend where there's a bunch of wrestling fans up there in Canada watch.
Well, 1,000 fans would have made them happy as can be on the night that I seen the picture because they literally had 100 people. I mean, it was the front rows only.
Now, did they run on Friday or Saturday?
That was Friday, August 9th.
Okay,
so they didn't want to be head to head with NXT Takeover. They're running Friday night. Draw little. Just the report from PW Insider was
crazy.
A little over 1,000 people.
Anyway, I was trying to take a commercial break and get off this. Y'all pull me back around.
I'm sorry.
Steve knew and his tactics over there. What is the worst injury to ever take place in a match? Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot. Go ahead and throw yours out.
Very
man.
simple. The match lasted 2 minutes, 27 seconds. Scared the bejesus out of me at the time that I saw it. And that was Chris Benoit breaks Sabu's neck.
What a good injury to pick.
Good injury?
I mean, good injury to pick for the worst one.
That was rough.
I felt
terrible.
Sorry. It was just, guys, honest to good. How the man. I thought he was.
Sabu's first broken neck, by the way.
That was the second.
Was it the second one?
No, that was the second most ruthless thing that Chris Benoit ever did.
Hey, stop it, Brian. Stop it now.
That was awful.
Stop it.
He's not lying. He's not saying what the first is.
Tell him the truth. That was the second worst thing he's ever done.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Wow.
I'm with you on that, Steve New. That was a great pick.
See, now I'm second guessing mine because that was an intense one. That was a good one.
No,
I'm
seeing
did
it in
you
my
not
head right
want
now.
me to bring it this week,
No,
John?
bring
I've tried
it,
to
baby.
come in
Bring
prepared
it.
this week.
I
I've
know it. I love it.
tried to watch a lot of wrestling and do my homework.
But you did not go fly yourself to Toronto Friday night to help them Ring of Honor boys out with their attendance.
Well, if I could have give away a ticket with a free Steve New T-shirt, maybe we would have got a 500 more in the door.
There you go.
T-shirts are nice.
Rester putting over his shirts. I love it.
Yeah,
Rich Quick, what is your pick for the worst injury of all time in a wrestling match?
Who?
You. Yes, sir. Mr. Quick.
Me.
Yes, sir.
Pronouns, pal.
I said Rich, but I couldn't. You couldn't hear me because my hands was in my pocket.
All right, my pick. Shut up. My pick is. I think it was obvious would be Sid Vicious breaking his leg.
What the hell's your problem, pal? That's twice this week. You stole my shit.
Well, that's the one that
that's what
going to
you
come to
get.
mind for everybody.
Yeah. And that's what you get for having us just not talk about what our stuff is, Mr. Producer. You better come in with multiples.
Just for the benefit of the
shoot, brother.
audience, there is no pre-production.
Like
like
there is
it
a
that way.
format, but only John Covey Cole knows the format. So we come in blind.
Shoot from the hip, baby. Shoot from the hip.
So what I will do is you come up with another one, all right? But I will, let's all discuss this whole thing surrounding this Sid Vicious breaking his leg. It's one of those things where it is hard to watch. I don't enjoy like Sabu breaking his neck. You're like, I gotta show my friend this. Sid Vicious, I'm like, no, I don't need to ever see that again.
It's like a real life version of Stretch Armstrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened to that basketball player too. There was a basketball player that the exact same injury happened to.
Yeah,
and you know what was really crazy about the Sid one?
Before the people, if for some reason people out there don't know, because we know what a broken neck looks like, explain to the people, paint a picture, and explain Sid Vicious breaking his leg.
I'll gladly do that, but I want to rewind a few weeks.
Okay.
I'll say we rewind like maybe I'd say it was 10, 15 weeks beforehand. The guy started doing this move that anybody with common sense would have said, this is not going to end up good for you in the long run. But he started jumping off the top rope to give a big boot. That is a 320-pound man.
I don't. Are you sure he was doing that on a regular basis? Because I don't remember seeing it before then.
He was doing it on a regular basis. Okay. It was his new move.
Okay.
He had just upgraded his big boot to coming off the top rope, and he started doing it, and it was awesome. But you think about it, you're like 320 pounds coming down on that one leg is not safe. All it needs just one little shift to the right or left, and you got a broken leg. And he kept doing it, and he kept doing it, and he kept doing it. And then one night, he's up there, Scott Steiner's going to take this boot, and he jumps down, and that leg snaps right in the middle of the wrestling boot. Right in the middle of the wrestling boot. He hits the ground. He doesn't even know what has happened to him. And he lifts his leg up. I think Rich went to go puke. But he lifts his leg up, and it dangles. It just dangles, and you can see that it is literally like a giant picked Sid's leg and broke it over his knee. It was completely broken. It was the most horrific thing that I had seen at that point in a wrestling ring.
Real quick to rewind a little bit further, Ben Cliff says, that is mine, Stephen P. New. That's my pick. Spoke to Rez about it last week. So you and the Englishman's on the same page this week. That's cool.
I like Ben.
Sid's leg break was pretty brutal.
Is that yours also, Brian, or are you going to throw out another one?
No, I didn't pick that one because I thought it was the obvious pick that everyone would pick it because it is the most brutal injury of all time. I mean, that didn't cause death.
That was the first one that came to mind whenever we first brought it up last week. I was like, that's the one. That's got to be the one.
For sure. My pick is a different match, and I don't know if it's the worst injury, but it's definitely one that stood out to me, is Joey Mercury in the ladder match.
Straight to the face.
He's in the ladder match. You got the Hardys in there. What was it? The Hardys, Eminem, William Regal and Dave Taylor, and what was it? Paul London and Brian Kendrick.
Dave Taylor was in the WWE?
I'm pretty sure that was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was William Regal and Dave Taylor in there.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive.
It's crazy how you forget certain things in certain areas. Go ahead.
But they're all around the ladder, and we're going to do the seesaw deal. And everything's set up, and everybody's set up in their places. And then Jeff Hardy makes the jump, and the seesaw happens, and everybody gets their hands up except for Joey Mercury, and he gets clocked right in his eyeball with a ladder that splits his face. If you remember, he rolled out of the ring and then came up on his knees on one knee actually, and they got a perfect shot of that one instance of him on one knee and blood literally pouring out of his face like a sieve, and his eye was already swollen 4 or 5 times its size. That was a freaking brutal injury.
That was
pretty
a
much
brutal
ended
injury.
his career. When was the next? I mean, you didn't see Joey
I don't
Mercury
think Joey
tagging up with
wrestled
Johnny Nitro anymore. And they had just came back that night. They were on like a really long hiatus. I think John Morrison had been doing some single stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're gonna bring Joey Mercury back for this special match," and then they almost killed him.
Yes.
Speaking of almost killing a man, I'm going to jump in here and throw out my pick. And my pick is Mick Foley in a Hell in a Cell. Because I knew watching it that first spot was planned whenever they threw him off the cage. But whenever he went through the ring and that chair landed on his face, I was literally feeling how JR was telling me to feel. I was like, "Hey, God, they broke him in half." I mean, I was literally like, this dude is hurt.
I'll
seriously
never
bad.
forget the tooth coming out of his
Oh, I
nostril.
know.
Never.
Yeah. That's a match you show people, because it's not brutal enough to be like, watch this guy break his leg, but it's brutal
Right.
enough to you can show people who don't watch wrestling and go, "You want to see some crazy stuff?
Wrestling's
Look at this."
fake, huh? Watch this.
Yeah, watch this guy's
Yeah.
tooth come through his nose after he falls 20 feet into the ring from the top of a cage after he's already been thrown out 25 feet onto the floor.
And have a steel chair land on your face and not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he would have been okay if that steel chair wouldn't have been there, but that steel chair made sure that was an injury.
And they still got the thumbtacks in.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And then if you guys remember, he come back out in the main event.
Yep.
Have you heard the story? I'm sure at least some of you have of Bruce talking about where Mick Foley comes back and he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't get the tack spot." He didn't
Yeah.
even remember it.
He still
had
had
no
tacks in him.
idea.
Like he still had
even did
thumbtacks in him, and it was
Yeah,
like,
and he seriously thought he had skipped that spot, but he was just, he was just out there floating. He wasn't there.
All right, let me
The
grab a
lights were
couple
on,
off of
but nobody was
Facebook here,
home.
guys, and then we will talk about a
Casey
few
had
more.
Had a good one that nobody's mentioned.
Casey
I thought.
said,
I popped
Tyson-
her on that.
Tyson Kidd's broken neck was awful. Yep.
well, we never got to see that. Like,
No.
see it, right?
I
Like
didn't
that
see
wasn't
it.
like
I
on
didn't.
I haven't
Raw,
seen it.
or I think that was like a house show. But yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was awful. The same way that Stone Cold's broken neck
Yeah,
was awful.
that was
Or
that was
Sabu's first broken neck with Taz.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Stone Cold's was the Owen Hart with the inverted pile
Tombstone.
driver, right?
Yeah.
Tombstone.
You know what's one that we haven't mentioned is Vic Grimes.
Yeah, we haven't, but if you would have followed instructions from your producer, you'd find out that's not what we're doing right now. We're going to read a few off Facebook, and then we'll come back and throw some more out. 10-4?
All right.
10-4. Pervert, I think that's how you pronounce it. I say Chris Benoit versus Booker T when Chris went for the suicide dive. I don't remember that. You guys remember that? No, me neither.
Okay, so whoever wrote that, find a clip and post it to the Royal Ramble page.
Yeah,
and
there
we'll
you
take
go.
a look.
Yeah, we'd love to see that one. And Casey, if you know where the footage is of Tyson Kidd getting his neck broke, let us know about that too.
Yeah.
Big Cliff says honorable mention Brock powerbombing Hardcore Holly onto his neck and breaking his neck.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, that was real brutal.
And Big Cliff proceeds to throw more and more out, so we'll come back to him shortly.
What about
yeah.
Bob Holly when he cut his back on that table?
Oh, that was nasty.
That was a big cut.
Triple H tearing his quads and continuing to wrestle the match.
tearing his quad.
Vince, yeah, the Royal Rumble. That was great.
That was
Yeah, because
almost my pick.
we didn't know when Triple H tore his quads. He didn't sell it.
Right. Vince is sitting there trying to scold somebody sitting on his hind end.
Oh my gosh. Also, there's Adrian, Neville, but I think he was Adrian Neville at the time. trying to go for the baseball slide and just breaking his leg in the ring or ankle or whatever, just breaking it. And then Jericho had to get himself disqualified by like hitting Charles Robinson. That was a bad one. Brock Lesnar elbowing Randy Orton in the head and just cutting him open. Real bad, was a brutal injury.
That was a work, brother.
I know it was a work. What do you mean it was a work? That was a work concussion with staples in your head? Them was working staples. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, what the hell?
He told him to lay it in, brother.
No, I just want to know what.
Lay it in and give me 14 staples, brother.
I want to know what kind of bonus or what that negotiation was beforehand. They go like, look, Randy, I have an idea. You're not gonna like it, but how much will it? How much would it cost to have Brock Lesnar split your skull in half? Like, how would you do it? Like, would you do it for $100,000? Or so, like.
Hey, we got a caller calling in.
Right.
Hey, what's up? You're on with the Royal Ramble. Who we got?
Hey, you got Jonathan Darwin here.
Jonathan Darwin. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. This week was a good week, so I'll keep it brief because I know you guys got a lot of Facebook and you want to get back to it. I'm going to throw out a quick pro and then my answer to this week's question. I think my pro has to be Johnny Blast winning the AIWF World Title.
That was very cool. Absolutely. That surprised me. Good for Johnny.
Yeah, 25 years in the business, good hand, really well-deserved, great match. So now as far as the answer to the question goes, I have to go back to Backlash 2017 with Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal when Randy threw one of the Singh brothers into the table and somebody overcorrected, and you just see that look on Randy's face as the Singh brother goes down on the table. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be putting it on my Facebook feed later, and just the look, the cinch on Randy's face, like, that did not go well.
Yeah, I remember exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Really? That's more brutal than like Gypsy Joe and New Jack.
Hey, Gypsy Joe's wasn't an injury. He wasn't even hurt by that.
Really?
Gypsy Joe, I don't know if you know anything about Gypsy Joe, but Gypsy Joe doesn't feel pain.
I know a lot about Gypsy Joe.
Well,
Come
then
on,
he didn't feel pain. Hell, he walked away from that.
That's true.
He walked. He wasn't hurt.
All right, Darwin, we appreciate you calling in, brother. Ramble on, my man.
No problem. Rich, see you Thursdays.
Jonathan says, see you Thursdays.
Kiss my ass.
Resner's one that walking off, dude.
What about Buff Bagwell breaking his neck? I don't know. I've really enjoyed when he come back and did the whole thing where he broke his neck again, and it was all a swerve. That was great.
Yeah.
Goldberg kicking Bret Hart in the face and ruining his career. That was horrible.
That was just sad.
Yeah, I was curious. Like, that's not so brutal. It's just
hey, Reg, let me ask you this: was there somebody in ECW? I apologize. Was there somebody who got a table leg through the chin? Was Sabu also, wasn't it?
I am not 100% sure about that. Did you just remember something, Rich?
Not about this, but I remembered something, but not about this. Continue.
I don't remember that.
I have no idea.
Sounds
I
intense.
left the stove on. No. How about several years ago in recent times when Sean Waltman at an indie show.
When he ripped himself a new one?
Yeah, literally. So for those who don't know, Sean Waltman's
You heard about this, Steve?
Bronco Buster. He would do a Bronco Buster, and he tried to do this Bronco Buster, and he went straight into basically he just took a pipe up to pipe, I guess. I don't know I don't know how else to say it, but he ripped himself a new one and literally tore his anus.
I heard him talking about that. He said that he still does the Bronco Buster. He just doesn't miss the Bronco Buster anymore.
Yeah. Whoo, that's brutal.
Brian, you mentioned there a little bit ago, New Jack and Vic Grimes. That was nasty.
Yeah, well, not only was it nasty, but the injury that inspired it, where New Jack had brain fluid coming out of his nose That was a nasty injury, too. Can you imagine a 300-pound man landing on top of your head while the back of your head is pressed to concrete from about 17 feet in the air? That's a brutal injury. And then New Jack came back and dished out his own form of brutal injury on Vic Grimes, and Vic has never wrestled again. And if you want to hear that entire story all the way through, go to the Royal Ramble YouTube page and check out our video interviewing New Jack. It is the most in-depth interview with New Jack that is available online, and he tells the entire story from start to finish, all the way from the brain fluid moment to Vic Grimes dying in New Jack's head, but he survived not to live the greatest life.
He about got his
afterwards.
ass. He about got him. Chuck Webb says, just tuning in, did y'all mention Sabu ripping his bicep muscle out against Terry Funk?
I did not.
At Born to Be Wild.
Man, yes.
Is that the one?
Is
that the one where he was trying to wrap his arm throughout the match?
Yes, he's wrapping his arm the entire match. Literally the whole match, he's wrapping his arm, but he's still participating in the match. That was classic ECW.
Wow. I hope this show is not. If this is the first time people are hearing about wrestling, it's either going to turn them off or turn them on to being psychopaths. Because we're like, oh, and this time that he tore a muscle and he did this and he brain fluid. Man, we are sick individuals.
I tell
what
you
about, hey, Brian,
it could have been worse.
Go ahead.
But it wasn't. Remember when Maven from Tough Enough was thrown out of the Royal Rumble and he slapped his face on the ground?
Yeah.
It didn't kill him. It didn't injure him, as far as I know. I'm sure it didn't feel good, but that was a very real hit.
Well,
and it's the first time I've said Maven, and you didn't even say from Tough Enough.
No, that was Matt Taven from Tough Enough.
Jesus God. Something we haven't talked about, and if it's in the news, but it's relevant to this, tell me to shut up and we'll talk about it later. But you remember Sasha Banks?
Killing Paige?
Killing Paige. And then did you see the GIF going around or the footage of her hitting Becky on her return, hitting Becky Lynch in the back of the head? Come on. Oh, doing what she does best. Hurting people. Hurting the top stars. Great.
She does hurt a lot of people, but that spot was great on Raw. I loved it.
I hate Sasha Banks because
I didn't care much for the big reveal. Oh, you got blue hair now. That means you're a bad guy, right?
No, yeah. I didn't like that either, but the heel turn was great. I can't wait till she comes face to face with Bayley.
No, I just looked at it and was like, oh, you have nice wigs. That's honestly all I thought about. Like, that's a really nice wig.
In my opinion, the boss character should have always been heel.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
She should be ratchet.
Before we get off of the injuries, Brian, I wanted to ask you if you remembered when Sting broke Rick Rude's neck.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get it in there, brother. I had to get it in there.
Yeah, I remember, John. It was uneven flooring. If he wouldn't have backdropped him on uneven flooring, he'd have been okay.
I was trying to look up that chin spot. There was some spot where a table went through a guy's
impaled
chin.
the guy, or
yeah, it went through the soft tissue of his chin. Also,
but it wasn't at ECW, was it?
I thought it was ECW. It may not have been. It was. It
might have been XPW.
If you guys get a chance, I just saw it. Look up Hulk Hogan, Richard Belzer, because before he was on Law and Order.
Yeah.
Richard Belzer, ain't that the guy from Saved by the Bell that was the principal?
No.
Oh no.
That's Richard Belding. Never mind.
Right.
Sorry.
Right, Principal Belding.
Yeah, it's Belding.
So anyway, Hulk Hogan, basically Belzer was teasing Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. Implying wrestling was fake. Hulkster put him in a rear chin lock and hurt him.
Snugged it up, huh?
Snugged it up and put him out right on his own live TV show.
Really?
Yeah.
And then, but the problem was he let him go.
Right.
Yeah.
He hit his
That's
head
what hurt
and hit the floor.
and
him putting him to sleep.
I haven't. I have not seen that.
You
Man,
guys
when
need
he puts
to
him
watch that because that came up on a website when I was looking for the chin spot there.
What kind of spot? Chin spot, you say?
Chin spot.
Oh,
and
I'll be back.
And it got a little too. It was one of those situations that got a little too real there for Mr. Pelzer, you know.
Well, you know what the funny part is that you're gonna really love about it is he hops right back up, and when he realizes that he was unconscious, he hops right back up and segues out of the show.
Right.
And he's bleeding out the back of his head, and you don't even know it.
Right.
Wow.
You don't even have a clue, but his head's busted wide open.
Yeah, you ramblers out there, send us the link there. I'd like to check that out. I have not seen
It's
that.
great. It's great.
Once again, we have rambled for a period of time. My kid's first day of school was today. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, so we're not going to spend too much time more this evening. Brian, I want you to pick your number one top story you got, and I'm going to throw one out as well, and we will end the show.
Oh, man,
like
we got to
that.
have two. We have to have two.
We do. We're going to have your one and my one. I'll tell you what. You go ahead and pick two, and I'll just let it slide. You go ahead and throw two out. How about that?
He probably picked one of yours.
Well,
What's been
basically,
happening all
there's
night?
a couple things that we needed to talk about. One is the King of the Ring details. So I'll go through the King of the Ring details because I said that I was going to do that
Oh,
at the end of the
Jesus.
show. The finals of the King of the Ring tournament will take place at the WWE Clash of Champions pay-per-view on September 15th. So the finals will be at a pay-per-view.
Well, that's good at least.
It'll be from Charlotte, North Carolina, which will be cool. According to Dave Meltzer, the tournament matches will be held on both Raw and SmackDown until the finals are determined. WWE should be announcing the King of the Ring brackets. The 16-man tournament will feature 8 superstars from Raw, 8 superstars from SmackDown. The red brand will be represented by Baron Corbin, Cesaro, Cedric Alexander, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, The Miz, and the blue brand will be represented by Ali, Andrade, Apollo Crews, Buddy Murphy, Chad Gable, Elias, Kevin Owens, and Shelton Benjamin.
It's Shelton Benjamin.
Yes. So who do you guys think is capable of being a king?
There's a lot of them there that's capable, but I think it's going to be, and it should be, The Miz. I think he needs something new. This whole face Miz is not working. We need to turn him heel.
King Miz.
Queen Maurice.
There you go.
Oh,
It's gold.
there you go.
Book it.
That's
That's my pick.
all right,
Hey,
what do
I
you
wanted
think,
to say
Steve?
Drew McIntyre, but that seems like it's too easy to pick that.
I know it won't be, and I suck at this thing, like obviously with Goldberg not putting over Dolph last week.
I did not have to eat my hat. I told you guys. Sorry.
I hope
but you
it's
were worried.
Cesaro. You talk about a guy deserving, and a guy that could carry that out as some type of a European king. Cesaro.
That'd be good.
Cesaro would be good. What about you, Rich Quick?
My pick was because I believe with this new Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff thing they have going on, I'm really hoping for a Cesaro push. You know what I mean? So I want it to be Cesaro. I think it will be Cesaro. But if you're going to give somebody a king gimmick, I mean, for God's sake, Drew McIntyre looks like he's from Game of Thrones anyway. He's the king of the North. He's the king. He's
Wow.
I mean,
It's a good one.
And
He's a
it would
psycho
give him a
king.
chance to, the other thing, Rich, I think it'd give him a chance to get away from being a McMahon stooge without having to have him turn on the McMahons. Or he could keep his cool heel gimmick right now without having to turn on Shane.
I was going to make a graphic for you, Steve, kind of like Brian did with the Game of Thrones there a while back, which was amazing, by the way, Brian. But
Thank you.
I'm kind of pressed on time, so I didn't do it. But I wanted to put a before and after picture of Baron Corbin and have Hot Topic manager, and then I was going to put him in like a Rural King outfit.
If it's Corbin, I won't be able to stand myself.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm going to give my pick because honestly, I think Cesaro would be a great king. I think Drew McIntyre would be a great king. I also feel like Buddy Murphy could be a Napoleon type king.
Yeah,
I also think that there's a good possibility that we could see a Andrade, King Andrade. would be awesome. But the person who needs this the most, the person who will play this the best, I forgot to mention that King Alexander would sound really cool. But my pick is Baron Corbin. He needs it the most. He will play it the best. And I think that him being the king could actually lead to him being watchable.
He's watchable now. You guys, the go away, he's not there like it was 6 months ago. He legitimately has heat.
You're right.
The good kind.
I just wish he'd change his outfit. That's the only thing left. That's the only thing left to change his outfit.
I wonder if he has actually.
Like the Hot Topic manager.
We're not the only one that is upset about his apparel. I wonder if he has set it around.
Hot Topic is contact. They have asked to retain my
Cease and desist.
That's right.
By the way, just so you know, I just had a thought where, Andrade, if he could speak good English as they want him to do, but Selena Vega could definitely do this. He's been facing Rey Mysterio all this time. It's great. I love the fact that Rey is doing the job for Andrade and getting him over. Rey means king. If he took his, I don't want to say take his career, but he takes his name. He is Rey Andrade. King Andrade. Wow. So he's King Andrade. Rey Andrade. Boom. There you go.
That's pretty solid. I like that. Wow. Now, since you only gave me the opportunity to say one more piece of news, I think that we ought to bring everybody up to speed with this 20th anniversary of SmackDown that is coming. And I don't know if you guys have heard the matches, but the details for the SmackDown 20th anniversary show we're looking at Orton, Daniel Bryan, and Rowan versus the New Day. And we're also looking at Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. Those are the matches that have been announced for the 20th anniversary. But here's some cool stuff. There's also been announcement that every major superstar from Raw and SmackDown will be there, including Brock Lesnar, who is a huge part of SmackDown's history. And then there will also be a list of Hall of Famers to appear at the SmackDown 20th.
Are they going to Skype in like you two gentlemen?
What?
I said, are they going to Skype in like you two gentlemen, Stone Cold?
No, they're going to show up. We're talking about Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Booker T, Lita, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Bill Goldberg, Trish Stratus, Mark Henry, Jerry Lawler, and Sting. Someone who I don't even think
what the hell's he got to do with SmackDown?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever even been on SmackDown.
Hulk Hogan's going to get a ride from a police officer. That's how he's going to get there.
That's another news story. He's going to get the whole police force in trouble.
And Booker T is coming for you, SmackDown.
You don't know about Hulk Hogan?
No.
He got a ride from a police officer to the arena and posted a video of it. And now that policeman has lost his clearance to even travel on the tarmac.
Have Hulk will travel.
What?
Nothing. Sorry.
But tarmac, he wasn't
the airport?
on.
A tarmac is an airport. Okay.
What? Okay, he's not allowed to even go there anymore, and there's an investigation on his job and everything else because of preferred treatment for Hulk Hogan.
Kayfabe, Hulk.
Come on, Hogan.
Christ.
Yeah, it's true.
We'll give you the perks, brother.
Something, brother.
You got to make sure you shoot your videos and take your photos, brother. I know I said 2 stories, but there was 3, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this one out too because it needs to be talked about. Apparently, Vince McMahon has broken a handshake agreement with Dolph Ziggler. Brian, do you want to talk more about that?
You could have it if you'd like it, but I will gladly talk about it if you don't want to. According to a source in WWE that was spoke with this past Monday, it was supposed to be Dolph Ziggler's last day with the company this past Monday. And I was told that there was a handshake deal in place between Vince McMahon and Dolph Ziggler, and that Vince would let Dolph out of his deal following SummerSlam so that Ziggler could pursue other projects. On Monday, prior to Raw, Dolph approached Vince McMahon to thank him. However, it was then that Vince told Dolph that he would not be letting him out of his deal and that he would rather pay him to sit at home. And what's interesting is that kind of ties in with the 20th anniversary because there was supposed to be a triple threat including Dolph Ziggler for the heavyweight title, and they pulled that match and replaced it with that six-man of Orton, Rowan, and Daniel Bryan versus the New Day. So Dolph Ziggler is going home to chill.
Well, I mean, he would be a really good surprise. I mean, I'm sure he has a non-compete clause somewhere.
Yeah, just like John Moxley had.
No, John Moxley put, like...
He spent his time.
Yeah,
his
he
time
did
was
his time.
up.
Like, his contract was done. Like, if you get released, then you have to be like, oh, a 90-day or you get fired or whatever. Then there's like a non-compete clause. But if you do your contract out, you can go to work someplace else the next day. John Moxley just rode his contract out and let them treat him however. So I don't know why they wouldn't just let Dolph off, but give him like a 90-day compete or go, swear like he's not relevant for
because
AEW.
they know Dolph Ziggler is a superstar, and if they let him go, he'll go be a superstar somewhere.
We talked earlier about the Orange Cassidys and the Joey Janela's of AEW. If Dolph Ziggler was in AEW, he'd shoot to the moon. The dude is gold. He really is.
Mm-hmm. But would
and he
shoot
matches
to the
up
moon?
so much better with the AEW talent.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing to think about, though. Everybody knows him as Dolph Ziggler.
Right.
Nick Nemeth
is that his name? That's his name?
Yeah. Dude, you run a wrestling show, and you're not mark enough to
That's
know
why I got you guys
names?
here, Rich. We've talked about this before.
I know. Hold on. Just real quick. Real quick. What happened, Resner, when you walked up to Mr. Falkenberg?
It's true. I did call Diamond Dallas Page Falkenberg, and
How'd that go
he
over?
responded to it. He responded. He said no one ever calls me that. It got his attention. He had a
I
conversation.
thought he called you a Mark. Or like,
no,
he was like on the phone. He's like, I got to talk to this Mark real quick or something.
Yeah, that did happen. Yes, he did do that. Yeah, but you know who he really punked out was Matt Mullins. Matt Mullins was there with me, and I was actually outside parking the car. He went into the Marriott to stalk wrestlers like what I was trying to do, but I couldn't find a parking place.
Like you do.
And he goes
Hold on a second, Brian. Was he riding with you and he hops out at the front while you're out trying to park?
Yeah, that's what I did. I let him out at the front and said, make sure that all, if you run into any wrestlers,
tackle
kill
them.
time till I can get there. So I drop him off at the front and I go to park the car. And I think we're like 19 or 20 and maybe a little younger, maybe 18. I don't know. But we go in. Actually, I think I was 17. But either way, he has Diamond Dallas Page there, and he's like, after he's got him signed everything and everything's good, he's like, "Oh man, you have to meet my friend. He is dying to meet you." And Page's face changed, and he said, "I don't have to do a damn thing." And walked away from Matt Mullins and punked him out when he was like, "Oh, you have to wait for my friend." No, I don't have to do a damn thing, and then walked away. But then I ended up meeting him anyway because he was, on the phone talking.
Yeah, and he had to talk to some Mark.
He had to talk to some Mark, and that was me.
I have one minor news item.
Yeah.
Vampiro diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of 50 this week.
Yeah.
Prayers go out to
At the age of 50?
to Ian. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what else? He's not going to stop wrestling. He is going to be an active wrestler with Alzheimer's.
They gonna turn it into a gimmick, you think?
No, that just means he calls all the spots.
What if he forgets he's in a match?
That's somewhat a joke, but it's really not. I'm like, no, he has to call. Same way like Stone Cold has to call all his spots because he can't hear. Vampiro needs to call all the spots because,
All right, guys, we've had a lot of fun this week. Next week on the show, Brian, you want to tell these folks at home what we're going to be discussing next week?
Sure.
And are you waiting for the graphic?
Tell me.
You just want to give me this list. How do you not know what's next week?
I give them to you, and you were supposed to sprinkle them out where you thought they fit.
Sure. Nice cover up there, old bud.
You're the producer.
That's what I claim anyway.
Oh, the Royal Ramble Beauty Pageant, where we're going to find out who is the most beautiful woman in wrestling history. And, that might not be the most popular topic ever because, everybody wants to talk about women's wrestling for skills. But next week, we're going to talk about the beauty of it. The beauty pageant of professional wrestling. Who's the most beautiful woman in wrestling history? I know everyone's got their thoughts.
Well, I don't know any of their personalities, so I honestly can't say.
We're talking about looks alone.
That's very shallow, but I'll give it a shot.
Beauty's only skin deep.
Beauty's
ugly to the bone.
Beauty's in the eye when you hold her. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard.
That was in the eye of the beer holder.
Is that what it was?
I think it was.
I can really attest to that. Go ahead.
Anyway, Rich Quick, final thoughts?
No.
Steve New, final thoughts?
Gathering in Charlotte. Anybody up for big wrestling reunion? The Gathering in Charlotte.
You going to the Gathering?
Haven't decided yet.
Still tossing it around.
Still tossing it around.
Hey,
I'm single parenting.
My kids are staying at their mom's this weekend. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay. I'm sorry. I do have a final thought.
You lied, sir.
I did. It's a habit.
Tell him you lied. Tell him you lied, Rich. Tell him you lied.
Congratulations again, very much to Johnny Blast.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, AIWF champion, the first man to ever hit me in a wrestling ring. That is the truth. We're talking. I was me and Lance and Johnny, and we're in Baileysville, West Virginia.
Woohoo! Close to home.
Yay! We're in
Baileysville Rump Riders.
and we get there, and I'm new, right? So nobody talks to me. I'm just the manager. So they're going over the match, and I'm standing there going, okay, I know what I need to know. And then he's like, can you wrestle? He doesn't even talk to me. Can your wrestler take a punch? And I look over at Lance like, what? And he goes, hell yes, he can take a punch. And I went, oh, shit. All right. So here we go. And then that's how I learned that you just say yes on stuff. Because Lance always answered for me, and I knew the answer was always going to be yes. But Johnny Blast hit me in the face for the very first time in a wrestling ring. And it was Pontiac perfection, baby. It was great. So congratulations, Johnny Blast. You have a special part in my heart, or a special place in my heart, rather. Best of luck to you. Go ahead.
Brian Resner, final thoughts, my friend?
Well, if you haven't liked the Facebook page yet, facebook.com/franchised with Shane Douglas. Please do that because it will help me out greatly. So if you could go and like the page, that would be awesome. And don't forget, we are sponsored by Stephen P. New.
And if you have
share the page.
I was about to say, if you have liked the page, call your buddies, tell them to like the page.
Yeah, and if those buddies say they've liked it, tell them to call their buddies and like the page. I'd like to have 1,000 likes by the time this thing launches.
Well, this is
share that on my page, Brian, and I'll share it on Twitter and Facebook.
We have upwards of 1,000 followers here on the Royal Ramble. So if everybody there goes and likes Franchised Facebook page, then
we'll be moving. We'll be cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas, baby.
Cooking with gas, baby.
My final thought is it's been very peaceful around here the last couple of weeks without crazed lunatics running around with kendo sticks.
Well, I think we need to try to make peace. So I'm going to try to come up with an idea in the next few weeks where I can maybe make peace on this situation.
He tried to blind me. What do you mean make peace?
Well, I mean, the Arabs and the Israelis got together.
I mean, no,
we all love you and Derek. I mean, come on, man.
I don't
Which
want to my
Derek?
good friends.
Derek Jones or the Derek that has the briefcase?
Derek Stowers, the
Don't
Ramble on the
take that.
Bank guy. We ain't worried about him.
You
We're
don't
talking
have good history with men named Derek, do you?
I don't know what these guys' problems are. I don't understand.
I think me and Steve are on the same page. We need to build a bridge.
Yep.
Who are you, the Judds?
Yeah.
Don't you think it's time?
Nope.
Yeah. Don't you think it's time? Don't
No.
you think it's time?
No, but I'll tell you what I believe, Brian. I believe the children are the future. I am the champ, and that's Derek tried to blind me, so screw that guy. Derek Jones. I gotta speak the full name since there's other Dereks floating around out there that's got it out for me supposedly.
We just said
We didn't say he had it out for you. We just
He
said
does have a shot.
Derek We've not heard from Derek Stowers. Derek, if you're watching, just don't forget you won the Ramble in the
He
Bank.
knows.
You got a shot.
He knows. Steve. He knows. If you don't do it within a year,
John's like, stop reminding him, please.
No, do you think he's scared? Is that what you think?
who?
Do you think?
Derek Stowers scared?
Yes.
I think he no. I just like I referenced earlier in the show. I think he's a very honorable, noble man, and when he is ready to cash in his Ramble of the Bank briefcase, he is going to be a man, and he's going to tell me, "Hey, I'm going to cash this in, and this is how we're going to do it."
Well, what if he shocks you and hits you in your other eye with a kendo stick, and then hooks up with Derek Jones and creates Derek Squared, and then
starts playing gigs around town with guitars.
Exactly.
Two Dereks.
And they
Call it
take
two
all your
Dereks.
gigs.
Two Dereks.
And then
Two
they
Johns
come
has a
take
much
your
better
title,
ring to it.
And then your whole life's screwed up.
They single white females you, man. That's what happened.
I ain't worried about it. Like I
They
said,
might even sue for custody of your kids, John. You need to be careful.
Well,
that's why Steve's
might
here.
give
I'm
him
worried,
a lot
Brian.
of money.
I have a conflict.
What if you find out that you're being sued by the Derek Squared for the custody of your kids, and they reveal that the higher power lawyer that they've got to do this is Steve New?
It was me, Covey Cole. It was me all along.
It could happen.
Oh, God. Big
It's
Cliff says
better
his
to
middle
build a
name's
bridge.
Derek.
John, don't you think it's time?
Did you hear me, Brian?
Don't you think it's time?
Shut up. No, stop
I'm going to
time.
start calling him Derek Cliff.
Big Cliff says his middle name's Derek.
I bet it is. I bet he's telling the truth. It's going to be Derek Thrice.
That's a Brit.
He's
name if
English.
I've ever heard it.
Well, if I tell you what, if he
British
wants a shot at my title, he's going to have to build a
middle-
bridge to get his ass over here to face me.
Now he's British. His middle name's is Jeeves or
He said it's
something
Mark.
like that.
He's being
Jeeves.
Jeeves.
It's Ben Jeeves Cliff.
Wow. I think that's enough final thoughts for this evening, guys.
We've rambled on.
For Rich Quick, Brian Resner, Steve New, I am your reigning and defending Royal Ramble champion, John Covey Cole, guys. We'll see you guys next week here on the Royal Ramble. Till then, ramble on.